The 3 moons of Viridia cast pale blue light across the capital city of Aloran. Streets and buildings glowed with soft bioluminescence, creating a peaceful evening atmosphere. The city was beautiful, like all Viridian settlements, built in harmony with the natural landscape, structures rising organically from the terrain as if they had grown there. Professor Zenth walked quickly through the wide corridors of the Viridian Academy, his steps echoing in the quiet hall. His blue skin appeared almost gray in the dim evening light. Final-term students nodded respectfully as he passed. They knew him well, not for his teaching prowess but for his controversial research. He reached his laboratory and pressed his hand against the door panel. It scanned his palm and slid open with a soft hiss. The laboratory was large but cluttered, filled with artifacts and data screens. Holographic displays showed star maps and ancient texts, all focused on one subject: humans. "Professor, you're late," said Talia, looking up from her workstation. Her skin was a brighter blue than Zenth's, indicating her youth. Like all Viridians, she had luminous eyes adapted for their planet's dim sunlight. "The Council rejected our funding request again." Zenth sighed and set down his bag. "I expected as much. Director Krell's influence grows stronger every cycle." Talia handed him a cup of warm Gentia tea. "He spoke against you in today's public address, called your work a waste of coalition resources." "Did he mention humans specifically?" Zenth asked, sipping the bitter tea. "Yes," Talia said. "He said, and I quote, 'Chasing fairy tales about extinct violent species is beneath the dignity of our academy.'" Zenth placed the cup down harder than necessary. "Violent species. The historical records clearly indicate that humans were complex beings with a rich culture. Yes, they had violent tendencies, but they were also capable of remarkable creativity and sacrifice." He walked to a central display table and activated it with a wave of his hand. A holographic image appeared, an ancient spacecraft design unlike any in the Coalition registry. Their propulsion theories were centuries ahead of what the Coalition developed independently, he said, pointing to specific components. "And their medical technology. Talia, I believe humans knew secrets about genetic manipulation that we still haven't rediscovered." Talia smiled at her mentor's enthusiasm. Unlike most Viridians, she actually believed Zenth might be right. The ancient texts spoke too specifically about humans to be mere fantasy. The stories described a race of varied appearance who breathed oxygen, stood on 2 legs, and possessed remarkable adaptability. They had spread across many worlds before mysteriously vanishing about 1,000 years ago. "I brought you something," Talia said, opening a secure container on her desk. She carefully removed a small object wrapped in preservation film. Zenth's eyes widened. "Is that—" "Yes. The excavation team at the old ruins found it yesterday. They were going to send it to the General Archives, but I convinced them it fell. Under your research grant." She unwrapped the object and placed it on the analysis table. It was a small disc about the size of a Viridian's palm, made of an unknown metal with strange markings etched into its surface. "Initial dating puts it at approximately 1,200 years old," Talia said, excitement evident in her voice. "And the composition doesn't match any known Coalition alloy." Zenth ran his finger over the markings. "These symbols, they match fragments found in the Centauri sector. Talia, this could be actual human writing." He quickly activated the lab's scanner, which projected a field of blue light over the disk. "Computer, analyze and compare to known language databases." The computer hummed softly. "No exact matches found in Coalition languages. Partial pattern similarity to theoretical reconstructions of human standard. 87% confidence." Zenth looked up at Talia, his eyes bright with excitement. "We need to translate this. It could be the evidence we've been searching for." "Even if we could translate it," Talia said cautiously, "would it change anything? The Coalition Council treats humans as myths for a reason. It's easier than accepting that an entire spacefaring species simply disappeared." "Truth is never easy," Zenth replied, "but it's always valuable." They worked through the night, feeding comparative linguistic data into the Academy's main computer system. By morning, they had partial translations of several symbols. "It's not a random artifact," Zenth said, rubbing his tired eyes. "I believe it's some kind of data storage device. If we could activate it." The laboratory door slid open, and Director Krell entered with 2 Academy security officers. Tall, even for a Viridian, with deep blue skin that spoke of pure bloodlines, Krell carried himself with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. "Professor Zenth," he said, his voice cold. "I've received reports that you've diverted resources from approved projects again." Zenth straightened his posture. "My research grant allows for the analysis of potential pre-coalition artifacts." "Artifacts? Yes, not fairy tales." Krell glanced at the disk on the table. "What is this supposed to be? Another piece of space debris you're claiming is human in origin?" "The dating and composition analysis confirms it's not from any known coalition species," Talia interjected. "And the markings match theoretical human language patterns." Krell laughed, the sound lacking any warmth. "Theoretical patterns of a theoretical species. How convenient that all your evidence is so ambiguous, Professor." He turned to the security officers. "Log this artifact and transfer it to General Archives." "You can't do that," Zenth protested. "My grant—" "Your grant is being reviewed," Krell interrupted. "The Academy Board questions the value of continued investment in your unique interests." As one of the officers reached for the disk, the lights in the laboratory suddenly flickered. A moment later, the Academy's emergency alert system activated, bathing the room in pulsing red light. "What's happening?" Krell demanded, his composure slipping. The Academy-wide communication system crackled to life. "Attention all personnel. This is not a drill. Multiple unidentified vessels have entered Viridian space. All citizens are advised to remain calm and await further instructions." Zenth moved to his main console and activated the external feed. The screen showed a view from the orbital observatory. Against the blackness of space, multiple objects were moving into formation around Viridia. They were ships, dozens of them, but unlike any in the Coalition fleet. Their design was angular and practical, lacking the organic curves of Viridian vessels. "That's impossible," Krell whispered. "No unauthorized fleet could penetrate our outer detection grid." Zenth stared at the screen, his hearts beating rapidly in his chest. The ships were arranging themselves in a non-threatening pattern, clearly visible to planetary defenses but not activating weapon systems. "They want to be seen," he said softly. "They're announcing their presence." The largest ship in the formation began broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple, repeated in multiple languages. When it finally cycled to modern Viridian, everyone in the laboratory froze. "Attention people of Viridia. This is Captain Jack Miller of the Earth exploration vessel Northern Star. After 1,000 years, humanity has returned to Coalition space. We come in peace and request diplomatic contact." The disk on the table suddenly activated, projecting a holographic symbol that matched the insignia visible on the lead ship's hull. Talia looked at Zenth, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. "Professor," she whispered, "the humans are real." Zenth couldn't help the smile that spread across his face as he turned to the stunned Director Krell. "It seems, Director, that my fairy tales have just arrived in our orbit." Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the Northern Star, watching the blue-green planet Viridia fill the viewscreen. After years of planning and centuries of hiding, humanity was finally making its return to the galactic stage. He felt the weight of this moment on his shoulders. "Status report," he said, his voice steady despite his racing thoughts. "Their defense systems are active but not targeting," reported Lieutenant Olivia Grant from her communication station. She brushed her short blonde hair from her eyes as she studied the readouts. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies, mostly questions about who we are." "Any hostile movements?" Jack asked. Peter Wright, his navigation specialist, shook his head. "No, sir. Their ships are keeping distance but not moving into attack positions. I'd say they're confused more than anything." Jack nodded. That matched their intelligence. The Coalition worlds had evolved without human influence for over 1,000 years. Most species now believed humans were just legends, violent creatures who had destroyed themselves in some ancient war. "Have they responded to our transmission?" Jack asked. "Yes, sir," Olivia said, adjusting her earpiece. "They've requested a meeting on their orbital station. Small delegation only." Jack looked around at his bridge crew, all humans, all descendants, of those who had fled Coalition space generations ago. "Looks like we're going to meet our neighbors. Olivia, Peter, you're with me. Dr. Harris, too. We'll need a medical perspective." "Sir," Olivia said hesitantly, "what if they're hostile? Our intel about the Coalition is old." Jack smiled slightly. "That's why we brought the fleet." The Viridian orbital station hung in space like a glowing blue crystal. Unlike the practical designs of human ships, the station featured graceful curves and organic-looking spires. The human shuttle approached slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions. Inside the station, Professor Zenth could barely contain his excitement. After years of ridicule, he was about to meet actual humans. The council had appointed him to the greeting committee only because he was the closest thing they had to a human expert, though Director Krell had strongly objected. "Remember," Council Leader Miran told the small group of Viridian officials, "these beings may look similar to us, but they are not Viridians. Our historical records suggest humans can be unpredictable and potentially dangerous." "The records also show their great achievements," Zenth countered. "Their scientific and artistic contributions to the old coalition were significant." "We are here to assess, not to welcome," Director Krell said sharply. "Until we understand their intentions, these humans are potential threats." Talia, standing slightly behind Zenth, whispered, "They traveled across space to reach us peacefully. That doesn't suggest hostile intent." The arrival announcement interrupted their conversation. The docking bay doors opened slowly, revealing a small shuttle with angular lines and the same insignia they had seen on the larger ships. The room fell silent as the shuttle's hatch opened with a hiss. 3 figures emerged, 2 males and 1 female, judging by their physical characteristics. They wore dark blue uniforms with silver trim, simple and practical compared to the flowing garments of the Viridians. The lead human, Captain Miller, according to the transmission, stepped forward. He was slightly shorter than the average Viridian but carried himself with confidence. His skin was a light tan color, his eyes dark brown, and his black hair cut short. The difference between his appearance and the blue-skinned Viridians was striking. "On behalf of Earth and her colonies, I greet the people of Viridia and the Galactic Coalition," Jack said in perfect Viridian. "We come as friends and fellow travelers among the stars." Council Leader Miran stepped forward. "We receive your greeting. Captain Miller of Earth, your arrival is unexpected. According to our historical records, humans disappeared from Coalition space over 1,000 years ago." Jack nodded. "We didn't disappear. We retreated. It's a long story, one we're here to share." Professor Zenth could not contain himself any longer. He pushed forward. "Captain Miller, I am Professor Zenth of the Viridian Academy. I've studied the historical records of human civilization for my entire career. To actually meet you..." His voice broke with emotion. Jack smiled. "It seems not everyone thought we were just myths." Director Krell moved forward. "Professor Zenth's interests are not shared by most serious scholars. What we want to know is why you have returned now with a fleet of warships." The female human, Lieutenant Grant, spoke up. "They're not warships, they're colony vessels and research ships with defensive capabilities." "And as for why we've returned," Jack added, his expression growing more serious, "we have important information to share with the Coalition. Information about a threat we've been monitoring for centuries." Council Leader Moran exchanged glances with her advisors. "What kind of threat?" "The kind that caused us to leave in the first place," Jack replied. "But that discussion should happen with your full council. For now, we request formal diplomatic recognition and permission for our representatives to come to Viridia." "That is not a simple request," Director Krell said. "Your species is unknown to most of our people. Your sudden appearance with a large fleet has caused concern." "We understand," the third human said. This was Dr. Sam Harris, older than the other two with gray streaks in his brown hair. That's why we suggest a cultural exchange first. Let us show you who we are and learn who you have become. Professor Zenth stepped forward again. I volunteer to host the human delegation at the Academy. Our xenocultural department would be the perfect place for initial exchanges. Director Krell shook his head. Absolutely not. Any delegation should be kept in secure diplomatic quarters. We are not prisoners, Director, Jack said firmly but politely. We come as equals, not as supplicants or threats. Council Leader Moran raised her hand for silence. Professor Zenth's suggestion has merit. The Academy is both secure and neutral ground. Captain Miller, would you and a small delegation agree to stay there while our full council debates your request? Jack nodded. We would be honored. Later, that day, Professor Zenth led Jack, Olivia, and Dr. Harris through the grand halls of the Viridian Academy. Students and faculty stopped to stare at the humans, some with fear, others with fascination. Your language skills are impressive, Zenth said. Our records suggested humans spoke many different languages. We did. We still do, Sam Harris explained. But we studied coalition languages carefully before making contact. We wanted to ensure clear communication. Talia caught up with them, carrying several data pads. Professor, I've prepared the guest quarters as requested. Jack smiled at her. You must be Talia. The professor mentioned you were his assistant. Yes, Captain, she replied, clearly nervous but excited. I never thought I'd meet actual humans. The stories don't do you justice. What stories? Olivia asked. That humans were fierce warriors who could survive on almost any world, Talia said. That you had incredible technology but destroyed yourselves in some great war. Jack exchanged looks with his colleagues. Not exactly accurate, he said gently. The truth is often less dramatic than legend, Sam added. They reached a large chamber that had been hastily converted to accommodate the human visitors. The room featured large windows looking out over the Academy grounds and the city beyond. This will be your base while on Viridia, Zenth explained. I hope it's suitable. It's perfect, Jack said, looking out at the alien city. The architecture was beautiful. Buildings that seemed to grow from the landscape, bridges that curved gracefully between structures, all lit with soft bioluminescent light. Your world is beautiful, Olivia said. Different from what we're used to, but beautiful. Professor Zenth beamed with pride. Tomorrow, I will show you our archives. The historical records we have about humans. I'd be interested to know how accurate they are. We look forward to it, Jack said, but his expression had grown distant as he looked up at the sky where his fleet waited in orbit. Talia noticed his concern. Is something wrong, Captain? Jack turned back to the room with a reassuring smile. That didn't quite reach his eyes. Not at all. Just thinking about the days ahead. We have much to discuss with your council. Later, when the Viridians had left them alone, Olivia approached Jack. They seem friendly enough, especially that professor. Yes, Jack agreed. But did you notice how that director looked at us? Like we were dangerous animals that might attack at any moment. Can you blame him? Sam asked. To them, we've been the bogeymen of history for 1,000 years. Jack looked back out the window at the peaceful Viridian city. They have no idea what's coming. No idea why we really came back. When will you tell them about the Void Collective? Olivia asked quietly. Soon, Jack replied, his face grim. Very soon. 3 days after the humans arrived, the Viridian Council called an emergency session. The Grand Council chamber was filled to capacity. All 23 council members sat in their curved seats, arranged in a half circle. Behind them, observation galleries were packed with officials and academics who had obtained permission to attend this historic meeting. Professor Zenth sat near the front with Talia beside him. His status had changed dramatically since the humans arrived. Suddenly his research was valuable, and his insights were sought by council members who had previously dismissed him. This meeting of the High Council of Viridia is now in session, announced Council Leader Moran. Her voice was amplified throughout the chamber. Today we welcome representatives from Earth to discuss their official request for diplomatic recognition. Captain Jack Miller walked into the chamber with his officers. Olivia Grant and Dr. Sam Harris followed closely behind him. They wore formal versions of their uniforms, dark blue with silver trim and small symbols showing their ranks. Jack looked calm as he took his place in the center of the chamber. But Olivia noticed how he kept shifting his weight from one foot to the other, a nervous habit she had observed during tense situations. "Thank you for granting us this audience," Jack began. "For the past 3 days we have shared information about human culture and history with Professor Zenth and his colleagues. Now it's time to explain why we have returned to Coalition space after so long." He activated a small device he carried. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a star map. "This is Coalition space as we knew it 1,000 years ago," Jack explained. The map showed hundreds of inhabited systems connected by trade routes. And this, the image changed, showing a dark area expanding at the edge of the map. "This is why humans left." "What are we looking at, Captain?" Council Leader Moran asked. "We call them the Void Collective," Jack said. "A race of sentient machines that attacked the outer colonies of the old Coalition. They targeted human settlements first and most aggressively." "Sentient machines?" one council member asked skeptically. "Our records mention no such species." "Because the records were deliberately altered," Dr. Harris said, stepping forward. "When humans realized we were the primary target, our leaders made a difficult choice. We removed ourselves from the equation." "You abandoned your allies," Director Krell said accusingly. "No," Jack replied firmly. "We drew the enemy away. Every human settlement in Coalition space was evacuated. We left false information suggesting we had fled to a distant galaxy. The Void Collective followed us just as we hoped." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Council Leader Moran raised her hand for silence. "If these machines followed you, why are you back now?" she asked. Jack's expression grew grim. He adjusted the holographic display again. Now it showed the current Coalition space, with the dark area much closer to the core worlds. "Because they're coming back," he said simply. "And this time they're not just hunting humans. They've evolved. They're consuming resources from every world they encounter." Olivia stepped forward. "For centuries we've been monitoring their movements from hidden outposts. 3 years ago they changed course and began moving directly toward Coalition space." "Why should we believe this?" Director Krell demanded. "You appear after 1,000 years with tales of a convenient enemy none of our sensors have detected." "Because your sensors weren't designed to detect them," Sam explained. "The Collective uses technology that masks their approach until they're practically in orbit." As if on cue, alarms began to sound throughout the chamber. A Viridian military officer rushed in and whispered urgently to Council Leader Moran. Her blue skin paled visibly. "The long-range sensors at Outpost Vega have gone silent," she announced. "All communication with the outpost has been lost." Jack looked at his officers with a grim expression. "They're here sooner than we expected." The council chamber descended into chaos with officials talking over each other. Director Krell's voice rose above the others. "This is clearly a human plot. They disabled our outpost to make their story seem real." Professor Zenth stood up. "That's absurd. The humans have been here on Viridia, under observation. They couldn't have attacked an outpost light years away." Jack raised his hands. "Please, we don't have time for arguments. The Void Collective will target outer worlds first, building their strength before moving inward. We need to prepare defenses now." Council Leader Moran activated her communication device. "General Lorne, what is the status of our defense fleet?" A holographic image of a stern-looking military commander appeared. "Our ships are on standby, Leader," Moran, but without knowing what we're facing. "Share all tactical data with General Lorne," Jack said to Olivia. "Everything we have on collective capabilities and weaknesses." Olivia nodded and began transmitting data from her device to the Viridian military network. "You seem well prepared, Captain," Director Krell noted suspiciously. "Almost as if you expected this attack." "We've been preparing for this possibility." "For generations," Jack replied. We hoped to have more time to explain to help you prepare, but we knew this day would come eventually. The military hologram flickered as General Lorne reviewed the incoming data. This technology, it's unlike anything we've encountered. Our weapons may not be effective against these constructs. Human weapons are effective, Olivia explained. We've designed our technology specifically to combat the collective. So we're expected to rely on you for protection? Director Krell asked incredulously. We're offering to fight alongside you, Jack corrected. Not to take over. This is your space, your coalition. We're here as allies, not saviors. Another alarm sounded. The military hologram showed a new alert. Multiple unknown objects have appeared near the Boros colony, General Lorne reported. They match no known signature in our database. Jack looked to the hologram. Can you show us visual? The display changed to show grainy footage from a distant outpost. Dark, angular ships moved in perfect formation. Unlike the organic curves of Viridian vessels or the practical designs of human ships, these were geometric and cold, with pulsing lights that seemed to flow across their hulls like circuitry. The Void Collective, Sam whispered. The council watched in horrified silence as one of the machine vessels approached a small defense platform. A beam of energy lanced out, and the platform simply ceased to exist. That platform had our most advanced shields, General Lorne said, his voice tight with concern. The collective doesn't just destroy technology, Jack explained. It absorbs it, learns from it, and improves itself. That's why they're so dangerous. Council Leader Moran stood up. Her decision was clear in her eyes before she spoke. General Lorne, mobilize the fleet. Captain Miller, we formally request human assistance against this threat. Jack nodded solemnly. You have it. My ships are already moving into defensive positions. How did they find us so quickly? Talia asked, her voice barely audible in the commotion. Professor Zenth's eyes widened with sudden realization. The disk, the artifact we found, when the humans arrived, it activated and projected their insignia. Jack turned sharply. What disk? An artifact we discovered just before your arrival, Zenth explained quickly. It activated when it received your transmission. It wasn't just responding to our signal, Jack said urgently. Those disks were left as warning beacons. The collective must have detected its activation. Director Krell looked stricken. Are you saying we led these machines here? Not intentionally, Sam replied. But yes, the beacon's activation likely accelerated their approach. Outside the chamber windows, the peaceful blue sky of Viridia was suddenly filled with ships. The human fleet had moved into low orbit, their engines glowing as they prepared for battle. What do we do now? Council Leader Moran asked. Jack's face was resolute. Now we do what humans have been preparing to do for 1,000 years. We fight back. The command center of the Viridian Defense Headquarters buzzed with activity. Screens displayed tactical information as officers moved quickly between stations. In just 2 days, the Void Collective had destroyed 3 outposts and was moving steadily toward Viridia. Captain Jack Miller stood with General Lorne at the main strategic display. The human captain looked tired. He had barely slept since the first attack. Their main fleet will reach Viridia in approximately 18 hours, Jack said, pointing to the projected path on the display. We need to coordinate our defenses before then. General Lorne nodded grimly. His initial skepticism about the humans had vanished after seeing the collective's devastating attacks. Our ships are faster, but their weapons technology is superior. The first engagement at Outpost Vega was a massacre. The collective has had 1,000 years to evolve, Jack said, but so have we. The human fleet is equipped with weapons, specifically designed to counter their systems. On the other side of the command center, Olivia Grant worked alongside Viridian technicians. Her fingers moved quickly over a console as she uploaded human weapon specs to the Viridian defense grid. Their shield frequency is cycling, she explained to a Viridian engineer. Standard weapons can't penetrate, but if we modulate our energy weapons to this pattern. She transferred a complex algorithm to his console. The engineer studied it, with widening eyes. This could work. But we'd need to modify every weapon system in the fleet. Then we better work fast, Olivia replied. In another section of the headquarters, a joint team of human and Viridian scientists examined the disk that Professor Zenth had found. Sam Harris scanned it with specialized equipment while Zenth and Talia took notes. It's definitely one of our warning beacons, Sam confirmed, designed to activate when it detected human transmission signals. But you said the collective followed these beacons, Talia noted with concern. Why would humans leave devices that could lead these machines back to Coalition worlds? Sam's expression was grim. They were never meant to be found. They were buried deep, only meant to activate if humans returned. A warning system for our descendants. Then why was this one near the surface? Zenth asked. Good question, Sam replied. Let me see those excavation coordinates again. Talia pulled up a map of the dig site where the disk had been found. Sam studied it, then suddenly straightened. This isn't right, he said urgently. This location, according to our records, it's directly above an ancient facility. What facility? Zenth asked. There's nothing in our records about a pre-coalition structure there. Sam looked up at them, his face pale. Because it wasn't built by the coalition. It was built by the Void Collective, thousands of years before either of our civilizations arose. An hour later, Captain Miller, Professor Zenth, Talia, and a team of specialists stood at the excavation site where the disk had been found. It was outside the city, in an area of rolling hills and sparse vegetation. Our ancestors placed warning beacons near every known collective site, Jack explained as they set up scanning equipment. This one was meant to stay buried, a silent sentinel. What exactly are we looking for? Talia asked. An entrance, Sam replied, calibrating a scanner. If there's a collective facility down there, it might contain technology we can use against them. Director Krell arrived with a security team, his face tight with anger. This is outrageous. You bring these machines to our doorstep and now you want to dig up more of their technology? Director, Zenth said firmly, this might be our only chance to find a weapon against them. Or you might activate something that makes things worse, Krell countered. Jack stepped between them. That's why we're scanning first. We won't take unnecessary risks. The scanner suddenly beeped, drawing everyone's attention. Sam studied the readout with growing excitement. There's definitely something down there, he confirmed. A large structure, about 50 meters below the surface. Jack examined the scan results. The architecture matches known collective designs, but it's old, much older than the collective we fought. How do we get in? Zenth asked. Carefully, Jack replied. 3 hours later, they had uncovered an ancient entrance, a circular door made of an unknown dark metal. It had no visible handles or controls. The team had set up lights around the excavation, casting long shadows as the Viridian sun began to set. What now? Talia asked, studying the mysterious door. Sam approached with a small device. This is a human override key. It was designed to interface with collective technology. Will it work on something this old? Zenth asked. Only one way to find out, Sam replied. He placed the device against the door's surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like escaping air, lines of light appeared on the door, forming a complex pattern. The pattern pulsed once, twice, and the door began to split open from the center. It worked, Sam said with evident relief. Be ready for anything, Jack warned, checking his weapon. A compact energy pistol, unlike the standard Viridian weapons. The door fully opened, revealing a dark tunnel leading downward. The air that escaped was stale, but breathable. Lights activated, automatically as they approached, illuminating a corridor that seemed to stretch deep into the planet. This shouldn't be possible, Director Krell whispered, his scientific curiosity temporarily overcoming his suspicion. Our archaeological records go back thousands of years. How could we not know this was here? The collective is very good at hiding, Jack said simply. They moved down the corridor slowly, scanners alert for any sign of activity. The walls were smooth and dark, occasionally interrupted by strange symbols that glowed faintly when approached. These markings, Zenth said, studying them closely. They're similar to patterns found in ancient ruins across Coalition space. We always assumed they were from an extinct species. They were, Sam confirmed. The collective didn't build this place. They repurposed it, just as they repurpose all technology they encounter. The corridor eventually opened into a vast chamber. As they entered, lights activated, revealing a circular room with a central platform. The platform held what appeared to be a control console, but unlike any technology the Viridians had seen before. "What is this place?" Talia asked, her voice hushed in the ancient space. "Some kind of control center," Jack suggested, approaching the central platform cautiously. Sam was scanning everything, his expression growing more excited with each reading. "This facility is connected to a network that spans the entire planet. It's drawing minimal power, but it's still active after all this time." "Active?" Krell asked sharply. "Could it be communicating with the collective fleet?" "I don't think so," Sam replied. "This is older technology. The current collective may not even be compatible with it anymore." Jack studied the central console. "If we can understand how this works, we might find a way to disrupt their communication systems." Suddenly, the facility rumbled around them. Dust fell from the ceiling as the lights flickered. "What was that?" Talia asked nervously. Sam checked his scanner. "Something's happening on the surface. Energy readings are spiking." Jack's communication device activated. Olivia's voice came through, tight with urgency. "Captain, the collective fleet has arrived early. They're in orbit now." "How?" Jack demanded. "They weren't supposed to reach us for hours." "They've accelerated," Olivia replied. "And, sir, they're focusing on your location. They're sending dropships to the excavation site." Jack looked around at the ancient facility with sudden understanding. "This isn't just some random outpost. This is what they're after." "We need to get out of here," Director Krell said, moving toward the exit. "No," Jack replied firmly. "This is exactly where we need to be. This facility is important to them, which means it's important to us." Another rumble shook the structure, stronger this time. Particles of the ceiling began to rain down. "What do we do, Captain?" Zenth asked, looking to Jack with newfound respect. Jack examined the ancient console, his expression determined. "We figure out what this place does and we use it against them." "How?" Talia asked. Jack turned to Sam. "You said this facility is connected to a planetary network. What kind of network?" Sam studied his readings. "It looks like some kind of energy distribution system. It connects to nodes all around the planet." Jack's eyes widened with realization. It's not a weapon, it's a shield. The ancients built this to protect themselves from the collective. Above them, the sounds of battle began to echo. The human and Viridian fleets were engaging the collective. "In orbit. Can we activate it?" Zenth asked urgently. "Maybe," Sam replied. "But the system was designed for a species that died out millennia ago. We don't know how to control it." Jack stared at the console, determination in his eyes. "Then we figure it out fast, because right now this might be Viridia's only hope." The ancient facility shook violently as explosions rocked the surface above. Dust and small pieces of ceiling fell around them. Jack, Sam, Professor Zenth, and Talia worked frantically at the central console while Director Krell paced nervously, nearby. "The human fleet is engaging the collective ships directly above us," Olivia reported through the communications device. Her voice crackled with static. "But there are too many of them. They're sending ground forces to your position." "We need more time," Jack said, his fingers moving across the ancient controls. "Sam, have you figured out the activation sequence?" Sam nodded, sweat visible on his forehead. "I think so, but there's a problem. The system needs 2 organic signatures to activate some kind of safeguard, and they need to be genetically different." "That's simple enough," Director Krell said. "We have humans and Viridians here." "Not just different species," Sam clarified. "The console is scanning for specific genetic markers. It's looking for 2 specific types of DNA." Professor Zenth studied the ancient symbols on the console. "These markings, they're showing biological patterns." His eyes widened suddenly. "Wait, some of these match Viridian DNA structures, but these others—" "Human DNA," Jack finished, understanding dawning on his face. The system was designed to be activated by both our species, together. Talia looked confused. How is that possible? Our species evolved on different worlds separated by vast distances. Unless we didn't, Sam said quietly. Unless, at some point in ancient history, humans and Viridians shared a common ancestor. The facility shook again, more violently this time. No time for a genetics lesson, Jack said urgently. If it needs both our DNA, let's give it what it wants. Jack placed his hand on one panel while Professor Zenth placed his blue hand on another. The console hummed to life, glowing brightly. Lines of energy began spreading across the floor and up the walls, illuminating ancient circuits long dormant. It's working, Sam exclaimed, checking his scanner. The network is activating all across the planet. Above ground, the battle raged in Viridia's sky. The human fleet fought alongside Viridian ships, but the collective vessels kept coming. The Northern Stars Bridge. Peter Wright watched in awe as energy lines suddenly appeared on the planet's surface, visible even from orbit. What's happening down there? He wondered aloud. Inside the facility, the console projected a holographic display showing the entire planet. Points of light appeared across Viridia's surface, connecting with lines of energy. The ancients built this system to defend against the collective, Jack explained, watching the network activate. And they ensured it needed both our species to operate it. We're not just distant cousins, Zenth realized. We're deliberate creations, two branches of the same tree, separated to ensure the defense system could only be activated if we came together again. The facility stopped shaking as a deep hum filled the air. Outside, a massive energy field expanded from each node, rising into the atmosphere and beyond. The fields connected, forming a shimmering barrier around the entire planet. In orbit, collective ships that touched the shield disintegrated instantly. Their coordinated attack faltered as the barrier disrupted their communication network. The shield is working. Olivia's excited voice came through the comm. The collective fleet is breaking formation. Jack smiled at Professor Zenth across the console, their hands still activating the ancient technology. It seems your myths about humans weren't entirely accurate. Zenth smiled back. And your understanding of Viridians wasn't complete either. But together we're stronger than either of us alone, Jack finished. Days later, representatives from across the coalition gathered on Viridia. The ancient facility had been converted into a joint research center. Human and Viridian scientists worked side by side studying the technology that had saved the planet. On a viewing platform overlooking the center, Captain Jack Miller stood with Professor Zenth and Council Leader Moran. The collective has retreated for now, Jack explained. But they'll be back, they always come back. This time we'll be ready, Council Leader Moran said confidently. With our species united again after so long. Professor Zenth looked out at the humans and Viridians working together below. For 1,000 years we thought humans were just myths, stories from the distant past. And now? Jack asked. Zenth smiled. Now you're allies, family, the way it was always meant to be.